Welcome back to Entertainment Fanatics. I'm your host, Doan Nguyen. On today's episode, I'm interviewing Ben Huff, who is a professor of cinematic arts from Cal State Long Beach, who has a long history of working in the entertainment industry. We discuss how he got into the entertainment industry, how to become a professor, and some of his favorite works to produce. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Can you share with the listeners your background in the entertainment industry?
Sure. I've been working in the entertainment industry, both in film and music, for probably the better part of 2 decades. I originally came out to California for grad school. I went to Cal Arts, and that's where I started to get my foot in the door and doing stuff within Los Angeles. And I'm pretty much tangential to the industry. It's not like I've worked for giant studios or anything like that. My career has, since graduating, been pretty solidly in academia for the most part. Um, Kind of fell into it. I went to grad school thinking, it might be excellent to perhaps fall back on teaching because I'm getting a master's just in case. I graduated around the time of the big economic collapse in 2007, 2008, and there weren't a whole lot of jobs out there for me. And a teaching position opened up as an adjunct, and just went forward from there. And now I'm a full-time professor here at Cal State Long Beach. But I've had a lot of experience over the years in that time frame, working in small boutique studios, working for independent filmmakers, independent musicians, and pretty solidly like spread within and throughout the whole DIY, I guess, industry in Los Angeles, as you could say, both in music and film. I've worked on projects for KCET, which is the PBS affiliate out here. That's just about the most big studio thing I've been involved with, I suppose. Um, but yeah, that's where my love is actually. You can have a lot of creative freedom in the world of independent film and independent music. Um, I feel like a lot of folks who get their foot in the door and become part of the studio industry with big studios, with big record labels and such, a lot of times they're doing perhaps like one task and sitting at a computer and doing that one task, which might be dialogue editing and dialogue cleanup over and over again, day in and day out, or you're doing logging and cataloging of clips and such. You're preparing tracks. You're a cog in a machine, and you sort of do your job. And a lot of creative freedom isn't allotted unless you're like really high up in a position like, say, for example, like Mark Mangini, who just won another Academy Award this year for his work on Dune 2. He has a lot of creative freedom, but it's really hard to get to that level of Mark Mangini, obviously. So I feel like I can do what he does, um, and I'm not getting, of course, the Academy recognition for it, nor the large dollar signs for it, but I'm okay with that because I really like doing the work that I do and working with students and fostering young minds to become folks who hopefully can find some footing either in the industry or in the independent world, just like myself.
What got you interested in being an instructor in cinematic arts?
Well, like I said, I think that the interest was an afterthought in a way. I come from an education family. My dad was an arts instructor in higher education, though in ceramics and design. And he actually got a bit more into video and video editing and manipulation when I was a kid, and that was my kind of in. So I was lucky in the fact that he got one of the first editing pieces of software back in the late 90s called Media 100. This was before Final Cut. This was for Premiere. I think Avid was around, but Avid was prohibitively expensive. And Media 100 was pretty expensive too, honestly. It came with a lot of hardware. Back then, you couldn't just edit on a laptop. Um, so, anyway, I digress. He was an instructor. My mom taught elementary school and middle school art. And as a kid, growing up and then getting my degrees, it's not like I wanted to exactly follow in my parents' footsteps. I wanted to do something different. Um, but when the first position opened up for me, and then actually it was where I got my master's, Cal Arts called me a year after I graduated and said, "Hey, we got a new audio class that we need handled for our animators. You interested in teaching it?" And I was waiting tables at the time. So I said, "Yeah, that would be great. Let's do something professional." And yeah, from there I just kept getting other adjunct positions, other part-time positions, and it just grew from there. So it's not something that I was necessarily what was an aim of mine to do. But I came from a family that had that background. I grew up throughout universities and education. I love schools, honestly, so it wasn't something that I was averted to, and I just fell into it. And I'm lucky that I fell into it, honestly. I'm really glad to be where I am now here at Cal State Long Beach, being the audio guy here and working with a great body of students. I love my colleagues. Everyone in the department really gets along, and we really, I think, do a lot to help our department grow and evolve every year. From what I know, working in higher education for many years, that's not indicative of a lot of departments throughout higher education. There's a lot of headbutting that sometimes goes along with that. So I feel very blessed to be doing what I'm doing where I'm doing it.
You have mentioned attending film festival worldwide. What are your favorite film festival to attend?
Well, I should clarify and say that I actually haven't personally attended a lot of worldwide film festivals. Most of the film festivals that I've gone to have been local ones, LA Film Festival, Asian Pacific Film Festival here in LA, San Diego Film Festival, Santa Monica Film Festival, a lot of the local ones. But the projects that I've worked on have gone into pretty much any film festival you could mention nationally and internationally. I think just about the only well-known film festival that something that I've worked on hasn't gone to is probably Cannes, and that's a big one. But yeah, my sound design work has been showcased in films that have played at Sundance, at South by Southwest, at the Berlinale, the Viennale. Um, let's see, what's another big one? Toronto Film Festival, New York Film Festival. I haven't gone to any of those. I haven't just gotten a plane ticket to see the thing that I worked on just play at a festival. But my presence has been there, I suppose. Um, but yeah, as far as the local ones go, one of the most recent ones that I went to see a few, including something that I worked on, was that the Asian Pacific Film Festival here in LA, and it was a really interesting one because it was all geared toward Asian and Pacific Islanders directing and subject matter films in that vein. The one that I worked on was about Manzanar, the Japanese internment camp up near Bishop, and that whole area actually. So really fascinating film. Actually, I would highly recommend your listeners check it out if you can find it. It's sometimes on PBS. I think it's available for purchase. It's called Manzanar Divided. Or Diverted, excuse me, Manzanar Diverted When Water Becomes Dust, directed by Anne Kaneko. And it's about not only the Japanese internment camp, but the indigenous people that are originally from there who got moved out by colonizers and then moved back. And then also a lot of the history there in recent years has to do with the LA aqueduct and how it was how the Owens Lake up there was basically made into a giant dust bin by draining all the water for Los Angeles water. So it's a region of great exploitation, and it was really a pleasure to work on that film. But there were other really excellent films playing at that film festival at the time too, which were great. So I'd highly recommend LA folks listening. It's a great festival to attend. Tickets aren't expensive or anything to go check out that one.
What made you become an activist to document key issues in society?
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, getting into my other side life. Yeah, so I mean, I've been a progressive. I've been sort of, I guess I could consider myself a revolutionary for many years. I've been involved with grassroots organizing for about as long as I've been teaching, 15, 16, 17 years. And it really just felt like a natural place to lend my talents because I've never really been a storyteller. I'm not anyone to write screenplays. Again, like my work is in audio, so I do a lot of post-production work, a lot of music. To clarify, not a lot of music for film. Like the two are kind of separated. I make lots of music for music's sake, and then in film, I do mostly all the other stuff like sound design, effects, mixing, Foley, all the above. Um, but me as a filmmaker, I've never really felt like I've been had a creative voice in making a narrative fictional story. So I gravitated kind of immediately toward documentation and telling other folks' stories. And being an activist, that naturally led me to, I think, want to document people's struggles, working class struggles, oppressed folks' struggles, those types of things, just because that's the type of thing that I'm involved with outside of school day in and day out as well. Um, so yeah, like the thing that I've been working on as of late, and actually quite a few years, even before I started working here at Cal State Long Beach 6 years ago, documentaries can be very lengthy projects. It's about what we refer to as environmental racism in Southern California, essentially having to do with uh, poor communities, very traditionally communities of people of color who live tangentially next to volatile industries. And a lot of that around where we live is oil refineries, battery processing plants, things that aren't too nice to live next to. So that's what I've been doing a lot of work recently. We're in the post-production phase solidly right now, where we're doing, I've got somebody editing it. I'm an editor myself, but it's always nice to step away from your work and have, someone help out with editing since I'm also very busy simultaneously with everything else I do. But yeah, I hope that we're probably gonna need to shoot a little bit more for it to fill in the gaps, but I'm hoping that we can have a good cut of it at some point this year. Might not be able to release it this year, hopefully next year, fingers crossed. We can get it out there for people to check out because it's a really important topic, and the stories that we've been covering are ones that I've been, on top of for basically a decade. And unfortunately, these stories haven't really changed. People are still living in the conditions that people live in, and um, yeah, polluter's going to pollute.
What was your favorite projects that you worked on?
Oh man, that's a tough one because at this point, with no exaggeration, I'd say that I've probably worked on over 1,000 uh, films at this point, and not features. I mean, we're talking about shorts, animations. I've worked on series, documentaries, you name it. Um, so it's tough to look back and say, oh, this is the favorite. I can tell you a few things that just pop into my head, especially like, recent stuff always pops into my head. There's one that I wrapped up this past year called La Gloria, directed by J.T. Walker. And it has oh, I'm terrible. I cannot remember the actor's name. Let me look it up real quick. Um, let's see. Put a pin in that for a second. Ah, here we go. Okay. Yeah, so La Gloria, that was a great film to work on. It stars directed by JT Walker and stars David Morse and Bill Heck. Both of them pretty popular character actors, especially David Morse. He's been in stuff for decades. Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed working on that just because it allowed me, as most projects allow me, a lot of creative flexibility. But also the subject matter was really fascinating and a little politically charged too about kind of a disgruntled old guy that has a ranch on the border of Mexico and accidentally shoots this woman that's trying to come across the border. And he comes off in the beginning of the film as this character that, could care less about anyone in that situation, let's say. But that comes to care for her and feel for her and her plight and her situation. So that was a great one to work on. Um, I think another one that I wrapped up in the last couple years is called Psyche by Stefan Stewart. That one's really crazy. It's very surreal, very heady about a woman who wakes up in the middle of nowhere in the desert and has no idea what's going on. Spoiler alert, she's actually like in limbo between life and death. So he allotted me a lot of really fun creativity to design these otherworldly backgrounds and sound effects and make it just feel like she was on another planet, basically, because it was all just happening within her mind or maybe within some sort of, spiritual realm. So that was a lot of fun to do sound work on. And some of my favorite stuff to work on are probably animated pieces, just because the the types of things that I usually work on are when it comes to live action are pretty down to earth. Don't have a lot of crazy CGI effects or anything like that because they're low budget pieces. But when I get to work on an animation, visuals aren't impaired by a budget. You can make fantastic visuals animated the same you can normal visuals animated, so it doesn't cost any more money. So animated stuff is always really cool to work on because I get to, for example, one that I worked on a few years ago for Shane Acker, who's a professor over at Loyola Marymount College in the animation department there. He actually directed the animated film Nine from about a decade or so ago, maybe. And he did a short that was really fun to work on called Crusoe. If you know the story of Robinson Crusoe, guy that gets stranded on a desert island. It was a modern take, a sci-fi take on that. So this guy's basically stranded by himself on an alien planet. And so I got to design this kind of on top of a water sort of rocket ship that he was flying around, and this giant whale creature that's trying to attack him, and this little buddy of his that's a little alien character. So there was a lot of fun creative stuff to do with that one. But yeah, animated stuff is always great. Like I said, I worked at Cal Arts as an adjunct for before here, and I was there for 12 years. And the whole time I was there, I taught animation students. And if you know anything about Cal Arts, it's basically the pipeline in the world to filter students who are brilliant animators into Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks, you name it. It's basically the number one place those big studios recruit from. So the animators I was working with there were always every year just blew my mind what they created. And it was really fun to mentor them and see what they were working on. And throughout the years, a lot of alums from there have hit me up to work on their projects after they graduate, and it's always a pleasure to work on their stuff too. So actually, one just hit me up like literally this week to work on something of theirs coming up this year. So
Is there any place that the audience can find your work?
yeah. Well, I've worked on, like I said, hundreds of films, and it's not like you can all find those in one place, but a lot of them are online to stream, or the filmmakers have posted them up on YouTube or Vimeo. Some of the stuff that I've worked on even is on like Amazon and Apple TV. But I'd say if anyone's interested in it's a whole litany of stuff, just go to my IMDb page, just search Ben Huff, and you'll see all the credits of stuff that I've worked on. And, you can cross-reference any of that stuff with, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's see where I can find that. A lot of that stuff you can find. But me personally, you can find the last film that I made that was substantial because I made a lot of little short things, but the most substantial thing that I've worked on in recent years was actually over 10 years ago now. It's called No Justice, No Peace, and it's about police brutality in California. And you can find that in on just on YouTube. So if it was through the producer was Liberation News, I think. So if you searched for No Justice, No Peace, police brutality, Liberation News, I think you need to do a few searches to find it. It's a half-hour documentary. And yeah, you used to be able to just search No Justice, No Peace, and you could pop right up. But become such a popular slogan at this point that if you search that on YouTube, there's just too many things that pop up. So, and then my music, you can find my personal music and my music from my band on any music streamers out there that you can think of. The big ones, of course, Spotify and Apple Music, you can find them on there. But my solo album that I released 2 years ago, you can find, coming up on 3 years, I guess, is on those platforms. I go by Praxis, but if you want to find it easily, I would search for the album name, which is called Don't Call Me Woke. It's a very political album, you might think, very progressively minded political album. And my band is called Niantic. It's Niantic. And I've only been playing with those guys for about a year or so. I've been friends with them for 15 years. And the most recent EP that we dropped in January, I'm on that one. And we're currently working on the band's very first, even though they've been a band for a long time, full-length album, LP, and that should be dropping later this summer, I hope. So we're getting into the home stretch of recording that one, and yeah, and I've been doing all the recording, mixing, mastering work on that stuff too, because that's what I do. Another colleague that I've worked with quite a bit over the years, who allows me to play a little bit here and there. I'm a bass player and a saxophonist, so I'm on his albums a little bit, but I've mixed and mastered all of his stuff. I think you should check him out too if listeners are interested in like something a little more like it's really hard rock, but infused with a little bit of Latin music into it too. It's really cool. You can search him. His name is Ale, Ale. Sorry. But again, there's a lot of Ale's on Spotify and Apple Music. So if you want to search one of his albums, I would say Irregular Heartbeat would pop up pretty quickly. And then you can find his other albums. Every single thing that he's done, I've worked on and mixed and mastered and played a bit on too. Yeah.
And finally, any advice for aspiring professional who wants to work in this field?
Yeah, so I mean, I get that question all the time from students is where do I go? What happens after I graduate? And it's tough, like the way in which I worked my way into what I do is I gave myself a whole lot of options, like after graduating and getting my master's and plopping myself here in Southern California. I was in bands. I took on whatever, music work I could for bands, recording bands, mixing them, all that stuff. I was teaching. I was working on whatever films could come my way, both in post and back then I was doing production. I haven't been on set doing production work, doing audio recording work for a long time. I was making my own videos and documentary stuff. I was just kind of trying to do it all and see what panned out. So that's the first bit of advice I always give students is, don't stop doing any of the things that you enjoy doing and you love doing. Like try it all and see where all of it goes. And it's good to keep your skills sharp in everything that you know how to do, to keep evolving and learning. I tell all my students right now, like I have learned 10 times as much since I got my master's degree, than when I was actually going to school. I've learned much more throughout life. Maybe that's not a great endorsement for going to higher ed, but you just keep learning. And if you're passionate about what you do, you keep learning. And if you're really focused on wanting to get your foot in the door in the music industry, in the film industry, in post sound, working in, a studio, in a post house, doing editing, design work, all of that. Doing any of that, you got to start from the ground up. Even with a degree, like I tell my students, your degree only shows folks that you have a background in knowing how to do some of this stuff, but you have no job experience. So you start from the ground up like everybody else. You go to a studio, you knock on doors, you try to become an intern, you try to maybe just be the person at the front desk that answers phones and gets coffee. Maybe they start letting you sit in on some sessions. Maybe they start shooting you some work. You do what you can, and you work your way up. That's how this business works, for better or for worse. And I think that's one reason why I kind of slipped into higher education, because it was steady work that came to me, and I grabbed it. But yeah, it's tough out there. I'm not gonna lie. It is, you'll never get anything in the industry handed to you, unless, you have a relative who's already in the industry. There's a thing called nepotism, and that works out for a lot of people. But it's a grind. But if you're good at what you do and you keep practicing what you do, and you take on freelance work from just people that aren't in the industry, and just need somebody good to help them out, then that's what you got to do. That's how it works. And it's fun. If you love this type of work, you won't look at it like work, and you'll wake up every day thinking, yay, I get to have fun today.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, fellas, take it easy.
If you're interested in Ben work, you can find it on most major video streaming platforms. I've also have provided links in the show notes. Thank you for listening. See you next time.